Welcome to No Instructions. I'm Bob.
And I'm Josh.
What's up?
Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
What you got there?
It is early in the week, and I finished my lunar set that's over that way, and I don't have a set to build. You're still building this gigantic, like, human-sized leg over here.
This thing is awesome.
So we dug through the nonsense that's in this room, and I found this retro arcade, build your own working classic arcade game that was included in your maker box. Is that what it was?
Yes. It was one of the things that they found. And they said, do you want this in there? And I said, sure. The end.
And it is unassembled. So I'm going to build it.
I'm pretty sure you have to have a soldering iron.
Oh, you have little faith. I'm going to make it work.
Okay.
I have super glue.
It's not the same thing. I don't think it's going to work out. But it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, this is a nice quality box.
It is. It's
magnets
really thick.
embedded in it?
Well, I mean, the box itself is the game. So it has to...
Oh.
Yeah. You're building the
Clever.
electronics into the...
I have to insert a coin? No, thank you. I see. It sounds like your son got his new instrument today.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
That's not Anthony burping in the background.
So, yeah, that should be interesting to listen to. My oldest joined the band in school, middle school. He's playing the euphonium,
Which is a what?
which is a baritone. It's like a big
Which is a
brass. It's a big brass instrument that's like in between the trumpet French horn size and the tuba. It's in the, and you can hear it.
It's like he's dragging a chair across the
That's
floor.
fantastic. So,
You might want to come up here for a minute before I make them stop.
okay, let's pause the recording. All right, so we're back. I went upstairs to check out my son's instrument because he just got home. And so now we have a very loud horn in the house.
Yay.
So that'll be an interesting thing. I mean, two of the kids already play piano, and so there's that practice sound, you know. Which, I mean, I play piano, so I don't mind it so much, but when kids are learning instruments, there's a kind of long period of just noise before they start to really get it.
Yep.
So,
I remember my brother was learning how to play the guitar when we shared a room, and I hated everything about the guitar when he was just like, blink, 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 in the middle of the night.
yeah.
Like, oh my God, I hate everything about this. And then I'm like, oh, I can play the bass. And then I can hook it up to an amp, and I can be way louder than he can be with that guitar.
With the amp.
Yeah, with the amp. Or I can be just silent to myself if I want to play the bass. Uh-oh. Okay.
Don't break it.
No, this thing is, the packaging is part of the game. Yeah. This is neat. Kind of, maybe. Or it could be stupid.
Kind
I
of
can't
maybe.
tell.
Could be stupid. So, remember last time we talked about sports and stuff for the kids? So all of our practices for soccer are supposed to start this week. And they've already been canceled the first night because of heat. Because it's...
Oh, is that why they canceled it?
Yeah, the heat oh my goodness. The heat index was very high. And it's supposed to be pretty hot today too, so I'm curious if they will cancel today as well. But we have practices every night of the week now. Between 4 kids playing soccer, 2 doing piano, 1 doing gymnastics 2 nights a week. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting adjustment to make as a family. Are you figuring it out?
Yep.
Cool. Well, what's been new with you since last we recorded?
My kids started school. All of them. So my son is in 4th grade now in the homeschool. My middle son is in kindergarten and my daughter's in pre-K. And it's exciting. Like, my older son has had his curriculum, like his workbooks, and they go to their homeschool co-op thing, and it has a curriculum that they bring home, and it kind of intermixes. But my middle son, which I kind of feel bad for him in some respects, has always been lumped into the littles. There's my older son, and then my younger son and my youngest daughter. They're the 2 younger kids are like 16 months apart. So it's always been my older son and the littles. And I always felt like my middle son kind of got a bad rep. Like, he's lumped into like a group of tiny people because he is kind of tiny, but he's part of a duo. Like, he hasn't gotten enough focus in his own right? And I've always wanted to change that. And so now, like, he's in kindergarten. And so he has his own curriculum. He's got stuff that he's working on. He knows his alphabet. I mean, we're working on reading. Like, we really want him to read. He's super excited to read.
That's cool.
Yeah, so he loves math. He's picking stuff up really quickly, and I'm really proud of him. And it's kind of weird because I'm like, oh yeah, like you needed to be doing school too, not just my older son who's in like a comparable grade in public school, and now my middle son, like you're in a grade now too. Like it's go time, but he's been learning. But
Yeah.
for his birthday, somebody gave him it was like a discovery kit that has just a bunch of little bolts and kind of Tinker Toy-esque, Connects-esque kind of pieces that are made out of plastic, and it makes this little biplane. And he was working on it. He dumped it out on his floor, and he was going through the instructions, and it was a little over his head, and so he asked me for help. And so he and I like built this airplane together. It was so much fun because he was calling things by the right names, and I was like, "Oh, go get the bolt, and go get the square nuts, and go get the bushing, and go get the whatever." And he'd pick it up from like like we're building Legos here. It's just a big pile of craziness, and they would give him like a parts list. I'm like, "Go find those parts," and he would go out and he would pretty much go find every piece. I'm like, "It is Lego time, buddy.
Yeah.
Like it's on," and it's neat to see him come into his own and kind of mature. And we should have been treating him more as his own individual person for quite a long time. But
Well,
now
I mean, it's harder when there's a one gap between a kid that's bigger than the other gaps. I mean, it's easy to lump them together.
yeah, well, now it's easier for me not to lump them together.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Yeah. How's school with you guys?
It's
You guys
good.
had a whole bunch of new schools.
Yeah, they all moved. We moved school systems this year, and my oldest is now in middle school. And that actually hasn't been as much of a thing as I kind of thought it would be. I don't know why. I was kind of expecting like he has a locker now, and he doesn't have a homeroom. They just switch classes all day long, stuff like that.
They don't have homeroom?
No,
I thought we had homeroom.
I thought
in
we
middle
did
school.
too, but I don't know. I mean, it was in middle. It was called junior high when I was in it, so shows you how long ago it was. No, I mean apparently that's like a different thing, which I didn't realize. But
I thought you always had like a home base that took roll, and then your like skipping around day kind of started from there.
that's what I thought too. But apparently,
These kids with their weird schools.
but the good thing is, I mean, he's fallen right into it. No problem, no adjustment really. There was a lot of stuff that's different for him, but seems to be rolling with it. Everybody else seems to like the new school. They don't really, or they haven't seemed to had any homework in the first, I guess, last week was the first solid week. And nobody had any homework, which seemed kind of crazy, but kind of good. Like, I'm not a huge fan of homework. I don't know that it really does as much good as people would expect it to do. But
There's been a conversation on Twitter about the value of homework, and people are pretty diametric about it. Either they, it's to reiterate what you kind of initially begin in school, or people think that it's just a waste of time because you're overloaded and during regular school hours. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well,
on
I mean, I could definitely see it being valuable, but in certain situations, if you, prepping for a test, having a little bit of extra study time out of the context of school before the test, that makes sense. But to have a daily packet of here's busy work that you have to do in a different environment just to have done it, it's like the same stuff. It's nothing challenging. It's nothing new. It's just more. And they're
More of
already
the same?
I mean, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And they're already, and this isn't high school. We're not talking about like you have 2 weeks to write a paper. It's not like that. It's
repetition work.
It's every single day, repetition stuff. And for my kids, I mean, they all do really well in school. They haven't so far struggled with anything really. And so that work isn't really reinforcing anything that I can tell. It's just giving them something else that they have to do. Now, that's not always going to be the case, and it's not the case for every kid the same age as my kids, but by the time they get home, they have chores to do at home, which we try not to overload them, but they do have stuff they're responsible for. But then they have homework that they have to get through, and their minds are not there. They're looking out the sunny window at their friends playing outside, and their friends come over and knock on the door, and they want to play, and they just want to go be kids. And I want them to go be kids, but like they have responsibility
Yep.
left over from their earlier part of their day that's out of their control. Like, you can't work on it at school. You have to wait until you get home. So it's not like,
I would do my homework at school.
well, they don't even get it, until they're like on the way out. It's weird. I don't know. This is at their old school. Maybe the new school, it'll be handled differently, or the expectation will be different. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, I do think that it has value. Homework has value, but I also think just doing it for the sake of them having homework, like if the teachers are just giving it out because they feel like they should, then I don't think it's helping anybody. And it's just kind of stealing free time and days from kids when they still have the opportunity to be kids, you know.
Well, I know that whenever I was an instructor, one of the theories of learning is repetition. So if I could play devil's advocate for homework, it would be that the stuff that is introduced into class with a limited class time, and I'm sure the stringent requirements that they have to hit for certain metrics or certain, teaching points or evaluation points, they have to be able to repeat some of that stuff to nail down some of the content. And I guess just because of sheer hours in the day, it's assumed that has to be done at home.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I get that. But I also think that when they're on their own, when they're not in a driven environment, right, where there's somebody saying, here's what you need to do, now I'm going to stand here while you do it, and I'll be here available if you have any questions. Once they get home, they're out of that. They just have a pile of responsibility, and they don't necessarily have to care about it. They don't really have to pay attention to it. It just has to be checked off the next day. And I think that's where maybe it breaks down, as the repetition can be maybe not as reinforcing as it might be, at school or the next day or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that would be really hard to monitor because, some of the teachers, I know for math class, they were like, you need to do the even problems because, the answers are in the back of the book, so you could kind of check your work. But then I think that would give certain people an out to just like copy down the stuff. Or I think it's really based on the student, and our curriculum does a lot of repetition, but there's certain things that are unnecessary repetition. Like my wife will get irritated at this one math curriculum that we bought for my oldest son. She's like, I get repetition, I get the point, but like this is unnecessary. So we got to choose a different curriculum because we had that freedom as homeschoolers, and there was one that was more his alley that would progress a little faster. While math is kind of unique because you can build on the skills that you previously learned to do the next thing. But we had that freedom to be able to alter how he was learning the material based on how he was responding to the method that the material was taught.
And I do think good teachers can do that sometimes too, in a more traditional classroom.
I would imagine that, like, institutionally, that would be much more difficult.
Yeah. I think in certain classrooms they can do that to a degree, but they still are responsible for everybody in the class.
Yep.
Getting them up
And you have to play to the
basic
averages.
level.
And
Right.
that's kind of where I was in school. I was the kid who got work done really quick because I wanted people to leave me alone. I would get it done right the first time, and then my time was mine. And some of my teachers would acknowledge that and kind of reward me for it when others would try to give me more work to do. And I could see through that garbage even when I was in elementary and middle school. I'm like, you're just purposely giving me busy work.
Yeah.
Or they would announce like whatever the homework was. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do my homework now because I'm finished with the other stuff. And that way I don't have to do it at the house. And I would get home and my parents were like, did you do your homework? I'm like, I didn't have any. And they always thought that I was lying. And I'm like, no, I did it already. Because I never thought that the stuff that we were doing was all that difficult. Anthony's slurping on slushies.
Slushy.
But I feel for teachers because of that kind of playing to averages thing.
Yeah.
If you have one kid that excels or one kid that needs a lot more work, there's that bell curve in the middle that just kind of, has to be either play along. You either got to slow yourself down or be dragged along. And that's really difficult for a teacher to try to put out a single presentation of content based on so many people's learning styles.
Yeah, and in that same thing in regard to the homework part of it, you can't very easily walk through the classroom and be like, okay, you didn't do well today, you have homework, you need repetition, you do have homework. It's like everybody's got to get it, which I understand.
There was a spot in high school where I realized that It was toward. So I did a dual enrollment program where I went. They had college professors come to our school. It was kind of like AP, but it was just with Troy. It was Troy State at the time. I was Troy University, and so I just got college credit. And the times that my college professor didn't show up to teach class, just my regular high school teacher was there, and we would have such a huge workload. I would have like a 10-page paper due this week, not as like the end result of the class. It was the workload was a lot higher. And I remember thinking one time, I'm like, I know this lady. I know my high school teacher. I know how much she has to do as a human being. I know all of the strict stuff that she has to put up with. Like, there's no way that she has the time to read all of the papers just from this class, let alone her 4 other rotational classes. I was like, I know she's not reading this stuff, and I'm going to test it. And so of my 10-page paper that she had to grade, I would only do it for her because I knew my college professor would do it. But I would do like the first 2 pages were legit, and in the middle I would just rant about craziness. Because sometimes we had to do stuff like that in class. It was like, all right, you had to do I don't know what it was called, but I had a 6-page paper due by the end of class about a certain topic. And so you just like, if someone walked into the classroom, just be a bunch of kids feverishly looking down at a piece of paper writing like crazy.
Yeah.
And that's when I would do that. I would just describe what all the kids in the class were wearing or what I knew that person did in another class that I thought was funny. And that would be the huge bulk of my work. And then the first 2 pages were good, my thesis and my outline, and then my supporting stuff in the back was strong. Everything in the middle was absolute garbage. And I would get really good grades. The first time I got like an A-, I'm like, I knew it. I knew she wasn't doing these. And so like that whole portion of class was just like, it's Josh's journal time. I'm not talking about the War of 1812. Let's talk about that girl over there slipped and fell and got mud on her clothes the other day. So school to me was, I mean, it was not, I feel for people that had a hard time.
Yeah.
I did not have a hard time. And I made myself entertained.
I didn't have a hard time like with the classes. I just didn't try. And I really regret that just because, not because I necessarily needed to try to get better grades. Like I didn't get good grades, really. And I don't regret the fact that I got bad grades. I just regret that I didn't make an effort, you know? Like that's a long time to be in school, to be in an area with responsibility and like to not really even try. Like
Well, I think it kind of messed me
should have given
up.
it a little effort.
Because when I went to college, I'm like, whoa, I have to try.
Yeah.
A lot is placed on my shoulders. I'm not just very easily regurgitating what they want from me. When you figure out what they want, you give them what they want, that's it. And it took me a lot longer in my collegiate career to figure out, like, oh, I can just give you what you want and then you can leave me alone. I thought that was my time to learn and express myself and, you know, come into who I was. And it's like, no, your English teacher just wants you just to regurgitate your papers. Like, they don't want to hear a whole lot. They just want to hear what they want to hear. And it took me longer to figure that out. So my college career early on was way more difficult than my high school career. Because I thought those environments or that like teacher-student kind of mentality was different. And it kind of wasn't.
Well, that has a lot to do with the teacher and probably with the type of school that you're at. I could see that.
Especially freshman level stuff.
Yeah.
Like the higher you go, it was so crazy. Like the higher I went in college, the easier, I want to say easier, but I'll use easier just because it's convenient to say. The easier
Because it's easier.
my schooling began because the conversations with a professor or between peers was so much more fluid. They didn't talk to you like you were an idiot. They didn't treat you like you were an idiot. The work that you had to do was far less busy work. It was more purposeful. It was to a point that you got to see immediately. So like my graduate work, when I was in graduate school, it was everything you did was for the project at the end. Everything built to this thing. And you had communication between people. You had project groups. And so it wasn't just like, oh, write me 1,000 words about, the imperialism in this culture. Where it's not really what you're there in school to do.
Yeah, it's just
your
word
your
count.
prereqs. Yeah, exactly. So the further you go, or the further I went, my work seemed more justified, and so then it made me more motivated to do it.
Yeah, I could see that. I think I did better, paid more attention further on in school for several reasons, but that was probably one of them too. It was a little more relevant to what I actually wanted to get out of college. What are you looking for?
The wire cutters that I thought I had are.
Oh, okay. Josh just got up and left in the middle of while we were recording a podcast. So if you're watching the video, look, he's not here. Go in. There we go.
All right, I'm coming.
Zerp, zerp.
I'm coming.
I'm missing, or I have extra pieces here.
That sound like two different problems. Okay.
I have two pieces that are matching.
Oh, you missed something.
Yeah, missed one. I only have one bag left after this, so I need to get this done. All right, well, I don't know how we got to talking about that, but we do have some questions from our Patreon members.
Yep.
And I thought it would be fun to talk about those. Oh, I see where they are.
So I like these questions specifically. Oh, I want to give a big shout out to Anthony over there. He's not burping, so good job.
Way
Step
to
one. But Anthony made a form for our Patreon members on Discord that they can submit either pros and cons or show topics or things like that to us, and then they get filtered and formatted and sorted in Airtable, this program or project management tool that we use, so that rather than like scrambling through all of the different things, we just boom, we see, and we can check off and we can credit people. And so now we're picking through some of those that are movie related.
Yes.
Because we love movies. We haven't talked about movies in a minute.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to do movie related. There you go. Dump that bag. Smash. Movie related Discord recommendations from our page. Oh, I broke the wire. Whoops.
Yes, movie whatever you were right to the same. Yeah. So okay, so these are movie things, question, comment thingies. We don't have names next to them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just said we could credit people, and you make me sound like a liar, Anthony.
Yeah. Well,
I can fix that.
yeah, it's not a big deal. So this one, I think, the first one, I think there's actually could be two different variations of this because I don't have one answer, so I'm going to change the rules. First one is talking about your favorite movie in cinema, and that is
Favorite movie in
huge.
cinema?
But I think you could actually break that down to two.
Favorite moment.
Moment, yeah. What did I say?
You said favorite movie in cinema.
Oh,
And I'm
favorite
like,
favorite
or-
movie in
Or
movies.
favorite movie in plays.
Favorite movie in yeah. How about we take it to two things. One is like your favorite visual moment in movies,
Okay.
the one that like really catches your eye,
Yep.
and then the favorite like
touched me-
story
touched me in my
moment.
heart.
Yeah,
Okay.
and maybe not favorite, just ones that you really like because it's
impactful.
I mean, yeah, because like I could name 100 different ones that hit me.
Yep.
I don't know if any of them are my favorite, but
Yeah, because I think it hits you in different ways. Like I was thinking about this the other day whenever it was kind of being talked about. I was like, there was a movie recently that made me cry, and I didn't quite remember what it was. And I think affecting you emotionally, and then something that stuck with you and maybe informed kind of who you are now. It kind of maybe hit you at that right time. I think those are two very different things.
I would think so.
So do you have one of
I
those
have.
moments?
So the first thing that came to mind with the visual one is Star Wars, of course. Empire Strikes Back, which I've said is my favorite movie of all time, hands down. It just is. The scene when Luke faces off with Vader in the chamber where they're gonna freeze him in carbonite.
Yep.
So there's a scene where there's these stairs, kind of bleacher stairs that go up the back of the away from the camera. They go up frame. They have orange lights embedded in the steps that you see, the curved, the rounded, shapes. There's a blue glow from the background, and then you have the two of them fighting silhouetted against those polar opposite colors. And then the music is gorgeous right there, and it's just everything about that particular shot makes me think of that movie. And there's something about that particular view that I really, really like a lot. What about you? Sorry about my throat, everybody.
Visually, I had a couple that came to mind, but Anthony was watching a thing on Jurassic Park earlier, and the difference in like the aspect ratio that the original Jurassic Park was shot in to give height, and how the actors played in with the dinosaurs, and how Steven Spielberg shot that entire movie to get the scale of the dinosaur rather than focusing on the human interaction. And then there's the part where like they're driving on the Jeep, and then when Dr. Grant sees the Brontosaurus or Brachiosaurus or whatever for the first time, like that was awesome. But the shot where the camera pans and like looks out over just the massive landscape, and it's got some of them drinking out of the water. It's got some of the other little dinosaurs that are running in herds, and he's like, "They're running in herds. They do run in herds." Like that moment,
Yeah.
where you get the scale and just that natural scenery. And then back in the 90s, like, it was the first time you saw, like, realistic-looking dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Not just, like, a guy in a Godzilla suit trampling around a cardboard town. And I remember seeing that, like, before it got scary with the dinosaurs and all that, just, like, that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And by all rights, that's exactly what things could have looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember seeing that and just being just amazed at that movie. I think I was 10 or 11 when that movie came out. And again, before all of the drama, I imagine, like, I want to go to that place. I want to be able to see that the way that they're seeing it. And I thought it was just beautiful. I think, like, nature preserves and national parks and those things, it's just this untainted landscape that can just fill your entire field of view without a Taco Bell sign or some other piece of, like, really crappy marketing. Like, you just look at what the world looks like without people messing it up, I think is beautiful. And then to even take that part of that movie, that scene, to throw it way back to, like, prehistoric times of what it could have looked like. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I thought that was amazing to see.
That's interesting because that sounds, with the way you're saying that, sounds like my oldest son. He loves Jurassic Park. He loves dinosaurs. But he doesn't love... I mean, I'm sure he likes it too. The thing he loves about Jurassic Park is not the, oh, I'm being chased by a dinosaur. Oh, no, there's danger. Oh, there's excitement. It's what you're talking about. It's like, look at that thing.
Yeah.
That's gigantic, and it's alive. And it's like, he loves the idea of what it would have been like to see those animals.
That look that, Dr. Grant had,
Yeah.
was like, that was an awesome scene. And I think watching that thing today, that was the point in the movie where the camera stopped shooting people at eye level, where they stopped shooting actors like you would normally see actors shot, and then it transitioned, like it panned and it swept up to the dinosaur, and then most of the shots of the humans in that movie are shot from up underneath, or are shot in some type of claustrophobic environment where now the dinosaur is the primary scale in all of those shots.
Huh.
It was such a cool, like, I know I liked that scene, and then watching somebody dissect it at that level made me like it even more.
That's cool.
Yeah. So visually in a movie, that's what. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting about Jurassic Park because that came out when I was in, what year did it come out?
I think 94.
94. I think it was
I could be wrong.
94, 95. But either way, that was like either my first year of college or my last year of high school, whenever it actually came out. I think it was 95. 93.
Ooh.
No, we're both wrong. So when I was in high school, I liked it, and I remember being, in awe of it and stuff. It wasn't like, I know a lot of people, like, that's to them what Star Wars is to me. Like, that was I've never seen anything like this movie.
Yeah.
And maybe I was just past that part of your life where stuff can really make a huge impression on you, like in just a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
But I remember walking out of that movie and being like, that was really cool. Okay. And just like moving on. And it's interesting to look back at how a movie like that has affected other people. And it just didn't hit with me the same way. It hit in a different way. A friend of mine, Ryan, who's probably not listening, but if you are, hey, Ryan, what's up, man? We used to work together. And he's a little bit younger than me. I don't remember how much. He never really got into Star Wars, and we talked about this one time, but The Matrix came out at that point in his life.
Yeah.
And so that was and I've heard this from other people too, The Matrix was the thing that was just like, I've never seen anything like this. This changes how I view the possibility of what movies can be and stuff like that, Right. Whereas me, I was in college, and we were like, oh, cool, Kung Fu, let's go watch The Matrix. And then we got out and we were like, oh, it's pretty awesome. Maybe they'll make another one. And then, it's... Stuff is different, depending on the age that you're at when it comes out. I'd be interested to know from people a few years older than me what the thing was. Like, it may have been Star Wars, because Star Wars came out the year I was born. So it was really the, I don't want to say generation, but it was the group of kids before me. It was really their movie, you know. But it'd be interesting to know what else had that type of an effect before me, to, you know, like my brother and people that are a little bit older. Is there any other movie that had or has a visual thing that really stuck out to you? It's the slushies. Every time slushies, it messes my throat up.
A visual element. I mean, there's Spider-Verse. I mean, we can throw back to Spider-Verse.
That's true.
And that's just, I remember watching Spider-Verse and just being so excited about the story, visually about what I was watching. I mean, more so than like Avatar and things that are meant to like be groundbreaking visual movies. Mm-hmm. I remember going into Avatar going like, well, I mean, yeah, like, it's not bad.
They upped the CG on this one.
Yeah, I was not enthralled.
Yeah.
Spider-Verse, I was.
Yeah, I do specifically remember somewhere in the movie, in the middle of seeing it for the first time in the theater, just thinking to myself, like, how did this get made? Like, how did
somebody say yes to this?
How did they describe it to another person that, you know, hey, I've got this idea where you take all of these visual styles and all this
executive.
stuff. Exactly. How did they take that up the chain and get somebody to sign the paper for that? I'm so glad they
imagine-
did, but man, like, how do you even define the style?
That's what I think I'm most fascinated about, because it made me feel those things too.
Yeah.
And for them to be in a pitch meeting, because I imagine most, you know, single sentence elevator kind of pitch meetings, like, imagine Forrest Gump but in space, and they're like, greenlit. How would you pitch that movie? And it would be like, we're gonna make a Spider-Man movie. They go, yeah, okay, great. You and everybody else are like, no, but it's a cartoon. They go, oh, okay, but there's already a live action guy right now. I'm like, no, it's gonna be like no other cartoon you've ever seen in your life. Yeah. And imagine if somebody said that to you, and you're like, well, how can cartoons be different? Mm-hmm. That's exactly how cartoons can be different, and good for them.
Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park. I think that the danger, because they were talking about doing a sequel.
No.
Yeah, the danger is that, like, they're going to try to either mimic, which I don't think they would do, exactly what they did before, or create some other new, well, now we'll go this way, and it just won't have the same effect.
I think it's going to have that, the Lego movie effect.
Yeah.
That the wow and the novelty of, like, how did you even do that? Like, that's amazing, is going to be lost if it is kind of a repetition, or if it's a variation on what they did. I don't know. I wish them luck, just like anything. But I remember that movie just... There are a few movies that I stop paying attention to the story, or the story is secondary to what I am watching.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think you typically, most of us would typically just go for story first. But, oh no, I'm missing a part. Wait, I got it.
But you mentioned the lightsaber scene in Empire. I think the battle that Luke and Darth Vader had in Return of the Jedi is my favorite lightsaber fight.
Oh.
In all of them.
Yeah.
Even like, the Kylo Ren and Rey, they came together. Like, I thought that was neat, and it was cool, and it gave me goosebumps. But Luke is my favorite character. Right, the farm boy who has nothing that eventually wants to aspire and grow up and have an effect on all the things. Like, I dig that storyline, and his like emotional roller coaster between Vader's his dad, and he wants him to go over to the light side, and he's being manipulated, and he's angry in that moment, and you can feel him be angry, and you can tell his like skills have gotten better. The choreography, I think, was better. Like, I love watching that lightsaber fight.
Yeah, and the music on that one is really good too. It's that, like, kind of choral hum.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but yeah.
All right, so what about scenes in movies that have stuck with you or shaped you or have been impactful?
Ooh, man.
I've had to think about this since we talked about it.
Honestly, like, anything to do with kids and, like, anything to do with, like, a parent-child relationship where you see someone hurting, that stuff hits me really hard. And I have a great relationship with my kids. I have a great relationship with my parents. It's not like it's bringing up some trauma. It's just real, you know? Like, when you watch somebody fight against Thanos, you're like, oh, that's a shame, bummer. That must be really tough, and I feel for you. And like, oh, we lost Iron Man, and this fictional whatever. But like, real parents and children really get hurt and really lose each other, and that stuff, I don't know, it sits differently with me, and it has a different effect on me. I think even in like Endgame, spoiler alert, seeing Tony's relationship with his daughter, just the fact that it existed, that there was a relationship, and then that is lost, like that got me. Of course, I was bummed that Iron Man's gone. He's like my favorite one. That's a bummer. But I really felt what he was worried about happening, about him losing the thing that he finally got in a family. Excuse me. And yeah, stuff like that really gets me. So anytime there's a movie that has something like that, doesn't even have to be a good movie. if I connect with that little relationship, even if it's not lost, like sometimes you just see like a really good parent-child relationship in a movie, and it still kind of gets me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a good answer because it's not specific, but
Well, even in that scene in Endgame, I mean, in the exact same light, I was okay. I thought that was the hero's death for him.
yeah.
Until Pepper said, "We're gonna be okay."
Yeah, I was like,
I'm
oh.
like, oh God, is everybody gonna be okay if I die?
Yeah, the "you can rest now" line. That. Whew.
Yeah, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh boy, Josh is broken. And then Thor talking to his mom, I broke there too.
Oh yeah.
But I think one movie that has stuck with me, and not even the whole movie. Have you seen the movie In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood when he's a Secret Service agent?
Never
It's
did.
got John Malkovich in it. He's a bad guy, builds a ceramic gun, and tries to assassinate the president.
Oh, I remember that part
And
of it.
like Clint Eastwood is a washed-up
Yeah,
guy that,
okay.
like, I think he was supposed to be protecting JFK that day or whatever. He's filled with regret. Renee Russo's in it, who was also Thor's mom. Wow.
Whoa.
Maybe I should have a thing for Renee Russo. Anyway, there's this like romantic kind of thing going on, this budding like flirtatious will they won't they between Clint Eastwood and Renee Russo, and he's sitting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and she said something and she walks away, and he muddles this line where he's like, if she turns around, she's interested. And you see her walk off, and she kind of stops and looks over her shoulder, and he was like, got it. And that stuck with me. And I remember, like, to this day, my wife, any girlfriend, anything that I've ever had, and I remember, like, when I was kind of flirtatiously courting, my wife when we were in high school, and that moment came to mind. I'm like, if she turns around and she looks back, like, this is happening. And she absolutely looked back, and I was like, holy crap.
Thank you, Clint Eastwood.
I'm going to marry that girl. And so, and it's a silly thing. Like, if I
Right.
had to give advice, like, I know you've had to have a talk with your son recently about girls and stuff because he's in middle school. Like, if my son has that, that's what I'm going to tell him. If she looks back, brother, then you got to make a move because she's interested. And if she doesn't look back, then, okay, whatever.
Well, maybe not like, yeah, maybe not wrap it in like, well, if she doesn't look back, just let it go. Maybe that's just like,
if she doesn't look back, and is her mom cute? They'll wrap those two together.
okay.
But that little piece of silly advice,
Huh.
if she looks back, she's interested.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember that part of the movie. If I saw the whole thing.
I
may not
probably
have.
shouldn't have remembered that part of the movie. That's not the coolest part in the movie by any means. That's not his hero moment.
That's
but
pretty funny.
It stuck.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of another one. Well, we have other questions too. I keep forgetting that there's more here because we.
Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the bench scene in Good Will Hunting. Like where bearded, holy crap.
Robin Williams?
Robin Williams, good grief. I was like, his name is William. His name is William. His name is William.
William Robbins.
Yeah, when Robin Williams is talking to old Will Hunting on the bench in the park. And he's pretty much telling him, like, you don't know anything about anything because you're a punk kid and you're just full of garbage. And I remember that hit me at that right moment, that there are people in the world who know more than I do, and I should shut up and listen to people who are more experienced than me. And
That's pretty big.
yeah. And I remember we went to Boston when we were on our travels, and we just happened to be, I forgot the name of that park, but we were in the park. And I'm like, oh, this is that park. And there's the bench just kind of hanging out. And I remember just got to like, and my son sat next to me. My wife took a picture of my son sitting next to me on the bench. It was one of those silly
kid,
little
you don't know
things.
anything about
Yeah.
anything.
You're just a punk kid.
That's funny. All right, that question was from Anthony. I realized.
Our Anthony?
Yeah, our Anthony.
That's
Thanks,
kind of
Anthony.
cheating.
If you could remake, so this one's Star Wars related, but we'll skip that part of it. We'll just say, if you could remake any movie with full creative control, what would it be and why?
Do you have one loaded up?
I do not.
I got one.
Okay, go for
Top Gun.
it. Really?
Yep. I think Top Gun is an amazing movie with potentially amazing kind of characters or caricatures of people they are meant to portray.
Potentially.
But then they've got like the volleyball scene and the scene where Tom Cruise is trying to like eat like Kelly McGinnis's face in the kiss thing. I think that there is a lot of truth and a lot of depth to that movie. Losing your friend in combat, trying to struggle with being the best. You know, you don't have your dad around. There's so many complex themes in that movie that I think are undercut by these really just obnoxious 80s, like I'm going to flex while I'm playing volleyball scenes and stuff like that. That
Okay.
I think that I love that movie. I think it could have been done a little better. And I'm anxious for Top Gun 2.
Are you really?
Yeah. I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it opening night. I love Top Gun. I love airplane movies. I mean, when I saw Black Hawk Down, when I was thinking about joining the military, I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do Black Hawk stuff because this is, look how cool these guys look. They have helmets. Look how dope these guys are. But I think that, not that Top Gun should have a Black Hawk Down, like, theme or feel.
Yeah, right.
But I just think that it was undercut by really silly, greased up volleyball scenes.
Huh. You know, it's been so long since I've seen it, I don't really remember much about it. So I'll take your word for it. I don't know what that movie would be for me that I would completely redo. I feel like there probably is at least one, if not several. But I can't really think of them. I'm trying to think back of movies that I was disappointed in.
Okay. Well, I'll make this question, I'll revamp it for you specifically.
Okay.
Okay. If you had access to the original cut Star Wars trilogy
Okay.
that allegedly doesn't exist, allegedly,
Oh, it exists.
would you release it to the public and denounce all previous versions, or would you keep it for yourself?
Are those the only two options?
I don't know what I mean. Let's say you had roundabout access. Ooh, I'm going deeper. That you had to steal.
Ooh.
This is like
So
how
it's
we
a
took
heist film.
the medicine to save your child to releasing Star Wars movies. Your starving family needs bread, or they could get rid of that stupid dancing scene in Return of the Jedi.
That's funny.
If you had to steal the original cuts, would you, and would you release them to the public?
It would be fun to try to steal something. I've actually had this daydream before about what, like in the last couple of years, about how fun it would be to try to break into the Lucasfilm archives.
Like on Fanboys?
Is that what they did? I've never seen that.
That's a funny movie, yeah. That's what they did.
Oh, well, okay. Never mind. But I thought it'd be funny to try to break in and see if you could get away with just like not taking anything, but just going in there. But imagine you could get in and get the footage. I don't know. Like, honestly, the whole special edition thing is not really that big of a deal to me. I mean, there's definitely the dancing scene in Jabba's palace is dumb and it doesn't add anything and there's no reason for it to be there. But it's not hurting anything either. Like, I was never one that was like, I want my original cuts back. I mean, the guy that made them wanted to make them better. It's not like we're just going to put in these couple more scenes where they're drinking Pepsi because Pepsi paid me $1 billion. It's not like that. It's just like
these space Doritos.
Yeah. You know, it's not like he
Big
was...
boop.
He actually wanted to improve some stuff that he couldn't do before. You know, and the mats got better and things like that. So, I don't know. That never really bothered me so much. But I guess taking that whole thing to Star Wars, if there were a movie that I could make better, it's not cheating. There's no rules. I was gonna say it's cheating. the prequels. I think
Yeah.
they're awful and they're terrible and whatever. You can disagree all you want to.
I don't want to.
Person listening.
Okay.
But the fact is, they just could have been better movies. Star Wars are not. They're just not good movies. And so if I were in charge of that, even with the terrible same storylines, there was mandated by Mr. Lucas, here are the stories, you have to do it. I think you should use Hayden Christensen. I would be like, sure. So he would be out.
Yeah.
I don't know who I would use, but somebody not him. So I think that would just make the movie better. And honestly, I don't think George Lucas is a great character director. I think he has a good idea and he has good vision, and he pulled off a lot with Episode 4. But honestly, he didn't really do much else after that I liked. So I think a different character director with different actors, or at least without Craden Christensen. What's his name? Hayden Christensen.
Yep.
I think it would be a million times better. Stumbling on my words today. All right, we want to do any more?
Yeah. What were the other one?
Oh, we're like 52 minutes in. Okay, we'll do the other one real quick. The other one is. Oh, that one was from Brandon P. This one's from Corey. Favorite Star Wars characters from each trilogy. Start with prequels just because they're terrible. Obi-Wan. Hands down.
From the prequels? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was easy.
Yeah.
Second, the original trilogy. Favorite character.
Luke.
Luke.
Or R2. Like, I like R2 because I feel like my life trajectory, I'm not going to be the star of the show. I don't know if I would even prefer to be the star of the show. I like being that nice sturdy cog that like drives everything forward. So if I can relate to a single character, it would be the trash can style robot that fixes all the airplanes.
I can't use words.
Yeah, like he's solid, he's steadfast, he knows what's up, he's got the experience, he's there to help and to save the day when no one else can. R2 is there. R2's got your back. Like Luke's story arc and all that stuff, like as a character, I really love. But my favorite character in the Star Wars universe is R2-D2.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would say in that trilogy, probably Luke. It's probably my favorite as well. Maybe Han Solo. He's just so cocky. I don't know. I think Luke has like the kind of pure heart. You know, he's really trying to do his best throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
And he does make a pretty big change from like whiny little boy to,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I know what I'm fighting for and I'm gonna do it regardless.
Yep, he has agency.
Yeah.
And he's got purpose, he knows what it is, and he goes after it. He makes his own decisions. I like it.
All right. Newest trilogy.
The newest trilogy.
Excuse me. That's right.
I mean, there's only so many characters.
Well, I mean, you know, think about the new ones.
Yeah, but only so many of them have story arcs.
Well, they all
There's
kind of
a lot
do.
of supporting cast members.
I feel like Poe doesn't really have enough of an arc. Like, you don't know anything
I
about
don't
him.
like Poe.
He doesn't do much for me.
I
He's like
honestly think that he was the villain of the last movie. Like, not the villain. He was the
Right.
antagonist,
the antagonist, yeah.
of that last movie.
Yeah, I could see that. I think he'll probably play a much bigger role in this next one about kind of fixing the problems from before.
I think so. He had a redemption story toward the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I like Finn. I didn't like what they did with his character and his in his weird little casino tangent. I like the fact that there is at least one stormtrooper in all of the galaxy that has a conscience of their own
Yeah.
and that can kind of decide. And I thought it was kind of weird that there weren't more. You know, being in the military and not fully buying into it, but still being a part of it. And there is definitely a point where something happens. You're like, this is a line I'm not willing to cross. Regardless of how I can justify being on the good side or the bad side, there is a line in the sand that I give myself. And I think that Finn's character found it and went, okay, I'm not going to be passive anymore. They want me to do a thing that I don't want to do, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And so if that means that I have to leave, then so be it.
So be it. I don't know. Finn didn't do much for me. Like, he honestly seems like a character that has no place. That they, like, we need one more. I don't know, guys. The team's not big enough. We need one more. Okay, let's just take a stormtrooper that goes AWOL and then becomes part of the team. And I know that there's more to it than that. He has played into, like, the moving things along, but he doesn't feel necessary.
Well, that's why I say about the last one how I think that the resistance, right? If you're going to muddy up a resistance, there's got to be more people than just him.
Yeah.
He has influenced people. Like, rather than going far off on some other tangent, like, use him to start an uprising. I mean, this is going into, like, they should have done it like this, and then it would have been a better movie. That's not what I'm saying. But I think a more compelling story arc for him is to use his skill set and his experience to try to change more hearts from within.
Yeah. I think people kind of expected in the last one for him to use that, his knowledge, to really, like, subvert, to, like, break in and use his, like, I know how to get around on the inside of the Empire. And it was really just like, hey, let's go to the casino and we'll end up at the Empire.
Yeah.
By accident.
I've been on there. I've been to that shit before. I kind of know where that thing is.
Yeah.
Like,
I think of that trilogy, I think Kylo Ren is probably my favorite. I mean, well, Ben.
yeah.
Because I really like the way Adam Driver plays that character. I've honestly only seen him in a couple other things. And so I don't have a lot of context for what he usually plays or how he's acted in other things. I've seen him in a couple of things.
He was in something that I've seen recently. It was a really popular movie, and he was like an extra. Oh, what was it? That's going to bug me. Never mind. I don't mean to do
Anyway, but I don't have a lot of, like, attachment to him as this type of person. And so seeing this just person that I don't know anything about act the range that he's acting about that character, I think is really good. I think he stands out as being super conflicted.
Yep.
Whereas everybody else is, kind of conflicted here and there, or they get over it really quickly. I feel like he is just bubbling up on the inside for something crazy.
And I like kind of what they're doing with Rey's character. I think that she's driven by kind of confusion. And whereas I think Kylo Ren has been through all of this stuff and has come to his stance on things, like, through experience.
Yeah.
I was part of the good guys. That didn't work out, whether it was accurate or not. He's chosen his path for a reason, where I think she's, like, constantly just discovering, like, I'm going to be this because of this thing that just happened to me.
Yeah.
It seems very fresh, and that she could be, I don't say manipulated, but it seems like he's more steadfast in his decision making, and I think his character is more around because of it.
Yeah. I saw this, since we're talking about Star Wars, saw this theory, which is totally off base and it doesn't line up, but it's pretty interesting. What if Last Jedi, Luke was dead the whole time?
Luke was dead the whole time.
He died sometime in the last 30 years and didn't know how to, like, fully commune with the Force to become a Force ghost, and he's just stuck in, like, this Force purgatory. So he can't get out, but he's not really there, and because of Rey's, like, Force touchiness, or I don't know, whatever you call it, she can see him and she can talk to him, but he's not actually on the island.
There is no island.
It's kind of a cool idea, where he's stuck, and then finally he just can project himself into her mind and into other people's minds, and that's how he did the whole thing anyway. So, and at the end, because he did this good deed, he was able to actually fully die.
Go home.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I don't think it's right, because his X-Wing was still sitting at the bottom of the ocean.
That's a fact.
Yeah, so. Oh, well.
Aw.
Still a cool idea. All right, we're like an hour, so let's wrap it up.
Hey, Bob, I don't know if you know this, but trying to wire things together with super glue is trickier than it sounds.
Huh. I don't know. I feel like I would have told you that if I'd realized you were going to do
it's
that.
working. It's just reserved for professionals.
Okay. Bad idea.
Got it.
Do you have batteries?
Yeah, man.
So you can test it
Oh, whenever
now?
I'm done.
Or are you
Is
not
that
done?
it?
I don't know. You're doing
I just
the
got
same.
to rig up the battery pack.
Okay. Well, you can try it out and be embarrassed when the camera's not running. All right. Where can people find you?
On the socials at Josh_makes_stuff.
And you can find all of us at I Like to Make Stuff on all the stuff. Again, like we say every time, Patreon is the best way to help out this show. If you want to help us out, that would be awesome. It helps out I Like to Make Stuff as a whole, not just this particular little piece. But we get the ideas for the shows, a lot of the topics and all that stuff from patrons. And we're going to be changing the Patreon stuff, the membership stuff soon, adding some more things, changing some levels and all that. So if you want to get in on it, get on it, get on it, in on it, on it.
And as you've seen, a lot of this show, I mean, the people that we've mentioned were contributing members to this podcast.
Yeah.
They weren't sitting directly here, but they were the inspiration behind this conversation. And I really wish we could have had a back and forth with the people that actually asked the questions.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So thank you for everybody on the Discord server. Thank you, Anthony, for curating that and putting it all together so that we could talk about silly stuff.
And thank you for being too stubborn to get the soldering iron, because it's going to be hilarious to watch this thing not work.
Man, it's going to work.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.